All right, it looks like we're live.
And we're
Well, guys,
live. That's the Maddie thing, right?
appreciate everyone waiting on me. It was literally me. Johnny was ready to go. I was the one having some technical issues, but um, I'm here, excited. I'm glad that was probably the most last minute stream setup that I've ever been a part of. But man, thank you for coming on.
When chaos calls, man. When chaos calls.
Dude, Kayge and Chaos. I think that's got the makings of a fantastic podcast. I'm just saying. I know you're not
And
a fan of having your own channels and whatnot, but I'm just putting it out there in the ether, man.
Well, I just now actually put up a new video on my new channel.
Oh, you did? Shit, I didn't even see that. Okay.
Yeah, I just put it up.
Where do I hit subscribe?
I mean, I haven't had I've never really used my YouTube. I never really used my Twitter before HEX. I never really used that stuff. I've had it for business promotion purposes and such, but I never really used it because I've always had enough work that I haven't really needed to push. Because when you do weird stuff like I do, people come looking for you because they need somebody to do something unique. So I haven't done the scaling of my business yet. It's always been me and under my control and under my power and just taking as much work as I want. So I never really utilized those platforms, the YouTube, the Twitter and such. But this is where it comes into what's happening now with the new Twitter X thing, or X as they're calling it now, where it is monetization. And that monetization is in the form of an ERC20 token, where hexagons who get regular engagement, more engagement than anybody else, could get free ERC20 tokens. And you know what you can do with those ERC20 tokens that you get for free, guys? You can buy some HEX, some Pulse, and some Pulsex with it. And that's what you can do with those new tokens. Isn't that swell? Isn't that like DCAing and getting free tokens? Knowing that we have the engagement that we do, doesn't that pump the price? Doesn't that pump your own bags? So go ahead, man. Talk about it.
Yeah, dude. I saw Coffee's tweet the other day, or I think it was yesterday, and it was so on the money on that front too. I think that, like, especially now, I mean, look, micro, macro climates, they're all kind of creating a very different landscape to what we've previously seen. Or not, I mean, that's not super different. Just they've shown a magnifying glass on some of the old stuff that we've had to kind of rebuttal. And with the documentary coming out and all that good stuff, and how we really have an opportunity to kind of like amplify our voice, this monetization gives people that incentive to do that too. So not only are you incentivized to grab, or incentivized to grab a bigger piece of the asset class, the ecosystem that we love so much, but we're also incentivized to kind of shout it from the rooftops too. So hopefully it's all kind of killing multiple birds with one stone. And this was, I mean, look, this has been missing from Twitter for a while. I've never been, big on Twitter at all. I mean, I very rarely used it previously. More so, not to post anyway, more so from a news gathering kind of perspective, right? You want on the pulse kind of news, and you select kind of where you want to hear those voices coming from. It's been great for that for me. But this is the first time that I have kind of taken a stab at actually putting out a lot of my own viewpoints and trying to use it to amplify a voice that I think is going to be good for the ecosystem, but a lot of other areas too. And for me, this is a much needed incentive for that. If rewind 6 months ago, before I really even started playing in this realm, that's kind of the push that I would have needed, right? We saw the same thing on YouTube. Obviously Twitter's got a massive following anyway, and it's kind of used for initially different purposes. But as we start seeing Twitter evolve, it's going to take on the similar kind of vein as YouTube, where people are actually motivated to put out good content, and we're seeing that more and more. It's exciting. Even in our ecosystem, we're giving birth to so many really cool viewpoints and people contextualizing industry news and ecosystem news and wider happenings through their own lens. That they're obviously thinking about how it's going to affect HEX, Pulsechain, Richard Hart, crypto as a whole. And it's so exciting to see that any little extra push that we can get on that front is fantastic. Plus, if as so many of our community are kind of real gung-ho about what we're talking about, like you said, I mean, look, you're given an opportunity to grab more and more of that asset, which, you know, and I'm fed with saying it, right? I mean, and I think I tweeted this out the other day that yes, you know, the whole crypto market really, but our ecosystem right now is taking a bit of a hit. We've gone down a little bit. We're in accumulation mode. Anyone selling, anyone exiting right now, anyone thinking that, you know, if you are active on Twitter and you are a fan of this ecosystem, if you're not thinking about grabbing more of this ecosystem right now, you kind of deserve to go wrecked when the bull cycle comes around, because you have enough experienced heads, not just, you know, people waving the Richard Hart flag, but people who have gone through crypto cycles previously. They know what they're looking for. They've analyzed the fundamentals of certain projects. They see, you know, they're using their own foresight to see where things are going. They're telling you that it's a good, they, in their opinion, again, obviously not financial advice, but they're telling you, I'm telling you, grab a bigger part of this ecosystem while you can, because you're going to deserve the huge gains, the huge price appreciation, or the euphoria and the warm, fuzzy feelings that come along with looking in your portfolio. And, you know, you'll forget the tumultuous times we all went through. And you're going to regret, you know, if you are again active on Twitter, you do have any and all opportunities. Grab them to pump it in, because this is how you gain momentum. You're not going to, you know, you can take home your couple $100, your couple bucks, your couple $1,000, you know, from Twitter and live on it, put it in a savings account. But you want to change your life, you got to take some bold moves. And you know, and in my opinion, and it's not even a bold move, it's just a move that anyone with a bit of foresight and a bit of investment experience and background can kind of plot a course to make it a much bigger financial impact on yourself. I had so many thoughts then. I don't know how sporadic that came out, but I'm still trying to cool down from running in for the stream.
I think you got to take some things into consideration. One of which, this kind of thing has been done before. It was called Steam It. Okay, paying content creators for their stuff, and also Brave did the same thing where they were paying content creators, but nothing seemed to really take off. And the reason is because they were starting a new platform instead of starting on a platform that already has the users. So in this case, Twitter is starting with a platform that already has the users, already has built up engagement, already has followers, already has fan bases, already has engagement, right? So now, you know, and if you look at our community owns that space, right? We are the cyber hornets from hell. We own that space. We ratio everybody's tweet, et cetera, et cetera. The only thing is now we have to kind of compensate for that. Now we have to pay attention. We have to be careful. We have to stop engaging the haters, and we have to start supporting our community members. Because when you are supporting the haters and engaging the haters, whether you're giving them a nasty comment or not, you are increasing their views. You are putting money in their pocket. So every time you feel like your nasty tweet, think of it, you're putting a quarter in the swear jar. Okay? You are putting
pedestals are important.
A swear jar that can be put in somebody else's pocket, even your own. So build your page, support your fellow Hexicans. Somebody says something you like it, comment, engage, share it, get an impression, because that's how we win, guys. And if you're supporting fellow Hexicans are much more likely to put money back in the ecosystem than somebody that's spending their time farming you for engagement and hating so that they can get a paycheck and buy something else, right?
Don't talk to Eric Wall. That's what we're saying.
Stay the hell away from that guy. Just stay the hell away from that guy. He will fund you out of your bags and laugh about it as he's buying them at the bottom.
Yeah.
You think he does? Eric Wall owns more Hex than you. I'm telling you right now.
100%.
He owns more than you. He laughs when he's a tire kicker, dude. You know, you got somebody that shows up to buy your car and they're like, yeah, well, tire looks like it's a little worn. That fender has got a dent in it, and you know, I'll give you 1/10 of the cost that you're asking for. Take it or leave it. He's a tire kicker. That's what he's doing to y'all. And in the meantime, you're like, ooh, he's got a good point there. Ooh, he might be right, because he's praying on your doubt and your fears and manipulating you to give you that one final straw just to send you over the edge so that you tap out and he can get your coins.
And we're going to be seeing this a heck of a lot more from a
Oh
lot of
yeah.
this like institutional interest. Even you think Eric Wall is able to play his little game. These guys are going to dedicate a lot more resources to doing that, and it's tale as old as time. Every single cycle, it's been the same. And yeah, to follow on from what you were saying, this pedestal or pedestals in general within the X space, they're going to continue to evolve and be ever more important. So even think about just like the reason why, from a branding perspective, they changed it to X. Yeah, I mean a little bit maybe to stamp, Elon Musk's
Pretty damn funny.
authority.
It looks just like the Pulsex logo, doesn't it? Just black and white.
Yeah.
I'm like, Jesus Christ, it
Coincidence?
looks exactly like the Pulsex logo. And Elon posted another picture. He's like, well, how about this one instead? What, did you realize that you like totally ripped us off?
Yeah.
You know?
And but I guess the point I was making is also that we're going to be seeing an evolution in X. That branding change was not just to stamp someone's authority on a new
Yeah.
system and a changing of the guard. It's to indicate a bit more of a versatile platform. No one spends that much money when you have a profile like Elon Musk to take over and only facilitate tweets, right? There's a reason why it's not Twitter, because he wants to get away from just tweeting. He wants to have a bit more of a content kind of focus. He wants to give a lot of the same attention that YouTube are giving to some of their content. It's good. The momentum we build now is going to do the groundwork, when it comes to some of those shifts in the paradigm when Twitter is also competing with a YouTube. And, it wouldn't surprise me if a little further down the road, it becomes a little more siloed where it's not share everywhere. It's not, oh, here's a Twitter post that you can also share, a YouTube link. Likelihood of that like changing so it Twitter or X, sorry, is its own kind of little system. I think that's it's important that we set foundations now as an ecosystem, as a community, to really get that groundwork in, to really get some real trusted or some real popular, let's say, influencers, tweeters, or X's, streamers, whatever it may be within the ecosystem. Let's try to build as many of those as possible so that we have some actual powerhouses come next year, the year after. Even as we're getting into the bull cycle, the more attention, the more love that we've given each other, and the less love we've given to anyone kind of with those kind of negative, opposing, clout chasing, tire kicking views, the better it's going to set us up for the future too. So that's all, foresight is everything in crypto, I think, especially with this ecosystem. And it's not just relying on price appreciation. It's also getting your ducks in a row from, a community perspective as well. And I think we've done a really good job. I think, look, we're kind of on the precipice of this exchange right now. As soon as it happened, as soon as monetization's kicked off, it's great to see so many people in the community looking to take advantage of that, either for selfish purposes or for the basic good of the community as well. So I'm really excited, and I'm going to continue giving love to everyone who deserves it on Twitter as well. And maybe you're right, and I think you said this earlier on in our kind of exchange on X, where it was, it's used as a venting platform for a lot of people. And while that's good to make you feel mentally good that you're kind of, you're getting rid of a bit of frustration, it is also bringing attention and engagement and interaction with some of those like real opposing viewpoints. And so we've got to be strategic with it. It's, I'm not saying there's never there are cases where it's good for the ecosystem, getting in front of as many eyeballs as possible. And, but let's be strategic with how we do that. And it's a tough thing to ask the general person online who's just looking at their feed and seeing, hey, this guy talks smack. Well, if he's too small, don't give him a pedestal. If he's big, ride the coattails, right?
If he's big, ride the coattails. Yeah. So that's the way to get the engagement. And we've got people of all different followings and stuff. Punch up. Go ahead, punch up. If someone's got more engagement than you, punch up. But if you're someone with the larger engagement, you have to be very cautious about what you engage in. But there's no harm in supporting your fellow Hexicans and clicking their links. You're not paying them. You're just helping them prosper. And that has that potential to create value that may be reciprocated back into the system. What this reminds me of is the fact that because, early adopter Hexicans actually got, the first Uniswap tokens, the first 1-inch tokens, the first Tornado Cash tokens, the first whatever. We were like ahead of the game. So we got all these airdrops at the very beginning as a result of being first to use particular platforms like that. And we got a lot of them. We got very large allocations of coins as a result of being first to provide liquidity, first to this. This is another one of those scenarios where we might have an option to literally dominate the revenue generation as a result of this, the size and engagement of our community, where we could really get a lot of stuff. I sent Crypto Coffee a link too, because I think he knows a little bit more about. I thought you had all the X stuff nailed down, so but I sent a link to Coffee because he knows what's up with that, and I expect to see a video at some point from Crypto Coffee on how to apply for your X and how that creates a wallet and how that does all that stuff, because I haven't got that far with it yet.
Yeah, for sure. And I'll say this, and just to someone in the who asked the question just now, someone had asked if it's worth them. I will say this, I'm not super up to speed on this, really. It's new for me too, but I'm also newer to Twitter as well. So to answer like Hex Love's question there, yeah, I mean, look, I'm new. I don't even qualify right now for to be able to monetize, just because I haven't been active enough in the space for long enough. I mean, you know, you have a certain follower count. You need, I think it's 500 followers, and you need to have what is it? I mean, there's a set number of engagement, I think that.
Yeah, guys. So get over there and give Ben some follows. He's got 1,500
well, that too.
followers. He's got 1,500 followers right now on freaking Twitter. What are you guys doing?
Right.
Okay. The
yeah,
guy's
I'm
great.
brand new.
He's articulate. He's spending his time. He's bringing you news. He is a great representative of the space. Go give him a follow. All right.
I will say this too. I mean, just to jump on your point there about, you know, essentially the network effect that this gives us. I think that I've talked about this on my channel a fair amount as well. And, you know, network effect has as bigger impact on, you know, a project, not just crypto, anything, right? As anything else. And I think that, you know, my background, for instance, you know, coming from more of a VC space, when we're analyzing companies and technologies and industries, we're looking at the network effect. Even if they're brand new companies, we're either looking to see what groundwork a company has done to be able to situate their footprint in a way that is really welcoming to a larger network, or we're helping them plot that course out of the gate so that, you know, that network effect is able to take form, because, you know, word of mouth is everything. And, you know, obviously we use the term word of mouth. Now that word of mouth is, you know, expedited through all social media, through all, you know, through everything. And I think that, you know, again, this monetization on X still feels weird saying X, but this monetization is going to really elevate a lot of the folks who are motivated now to really, you know, increase that word of mouth. And I think everyone's forgetting. Yes, we're under the limelight right now for, you know, whether you want to look at it as good or bad, or a little bit of bad, but with a silver lining. Everything's a double-edged sword, but we're under the limelight now. We're still in the bear market. We're under the limelight right now where everything's bearish anyway. If there's a way,
dropped a nuclear bomb on us and we still ain't zero.
It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. And I'm a big proponent of Mr. Chaos's bonding, liquidity bonding kind of ethos. And I think that is going to play a much bigger effect come bull season. It's amazing to me. And I've been more vocal about this recently, but it's amazing how there are people out there chalking up wins and losses, or chalking up, you know, kind of where things are without enough data yet. We haven't, it's still so early. But, you know, and you'll see it on Reddit, which is, again, more of a venting or a newbie platform where people just express their panic as much as anything else. But you'll see, you know, people who are making assumptions, and they're losing track of the importance of having a bit more of a longer mindset. Because, you know, we've all, you know, lots of us have been through various, you know, different cycles now, and just witnessing firsthand. It's different when you're prepared in the bear cycle to have, you know, to observe that shift in mentality, as to when you're caught up in it and you haven't really had the chance to take a step back and observe the evolution of like the crypto community mindset as this happens. But I'll tell you, like, minds change drastically. You inject a little bit of euphoria, a little bit of positivity. All of a sudden, every bit of news that comes in from the outside is given a natural, organic, positive spin, whether it's necessarily bad for the community or not. A lot of that stuff is injected with so much positivity. You think we're not going to ride the coattails of that? We're perfectly positioned to do so. We have a community now showing its true colors. And a lot of that is good. A lot of that is gung ho. A lot of that is really being put somewhat on the defensive. But I think that narrative is going to change significantly as we start approaching more of that kind of bull cycle mentality. Of course, there are going to be macro, elements at play that are going to, affect mindsets along the way. But we're
There's
gonna
a
be
lot of moving
expedited.
parts, Ben. So that's the thing. Like you were saying, as far as things moving together, they are, because the ratios have pretty much stayed the same. Even through the crash, the ratios stayed pretty much the same. And I said from the very beginning, we don't know what those ratios are until they're set.
No.
That's what I actually said from the beginning. I know things have been cropped and taken out of context, but it all comes down to the fact of nobody knew what the ratios would be. And we talked about what could be and what the variables, what the factors were that could affect that, and what choices could be made that might be without, out of our scope of power. But the ratios have pretty much stayed the same, which means when we crash all down together, right? And so now we're waiting to see if those ratios hold when we pump. And if they do, you guys are missing the most important part of everything I said when I said a 201 ratio to HEX, right? For Pulse. That means if Pulse moves a penny, HEX moves $2. Pulse cannot be a penny without a $2 HEX if the ratio stayed the same. Because one HEX can be traded for 200 Pulse. And if Pulse is a penny, that means a $2 HEX. What gives something value is the amount of units that it can be traded for, period. That's it. So when I said HEX is going to destroy everything because of the ratios, guess what? Yes, guys, it's a multiplier. As far as the 2-to-1 ratio that everybody likes to throw in my face, dude, it could have landed anywhere. And it has been set at 2-to-1. That's where it has been set, right? Now it can fluctuate because those pools are not as large. They're not large enough to prevent the ratio from changing. Okay. It's large enough to hold it pretty tight as long as people continue the same behavior, but you cannot be dependent that it's going to stay there because the pools are not large enough at this time to hold that ratio. And I'll tell you why that ratio was set. That ratio was set very clearly. So people got the idea that their coins on Pulsechain would do twice as better than they do on Ethereum. It was marketing. The idea is that those coins would be doing twice. I think it could have been, by setting it 1-to-1 would have been just fine, because that would have gave people the idea that their coins would do just as well on Pulsechain. You didn't have to try to say double. So, and you know what, guys? I'm going to throw this out here because we got the Bank X guys. Let me explain something to you. If Bank X dumps EHEX, PHEX takes a dive too. If you think going over to PHEX protects you from Bank X selling EHEX, you're an idiot, an absolute moron. That is like putting a cardboard box over your head when a tornado is coming and standing outside your house going, it's not going to get me. I've got my cardboard box, as it takes your house away, right? That's what that is. The whole ecosystem is interconnected. The Bank X FUD does not help any of the ecosystem. All that does is that tells everybody in the world, when you bring up Bank X, not to buy anything. When you create division and you tell people, no, that side sucks, this side's good, they say, oh, it's the same code. Ooh, if that side sucks, then maybe I won't buy any of it. This is what causes problems, guys. Creating division, creating fear, spreading that fear, feeding it, that's what creates the problems, guys. That is what's responsible for people's inaction to act, because they're afraid, and those fears get amplified by people throwing stuff out like that, okay? If Bank X sold today, right now, you get a flash crash, and then it's over. The best thing for us is for you to blink and it be over. So if Bank X wants to sell right now, that's fine. I got limit orders all the way down to 0.000001. I'll take it. I'll take it at that, okay? And then the price can go back up. Everything can go back to normal. And that threat is gone forever. And then you just like, oh, well, I guess it didn't matter all that much. Yeah, but you spent all this time brewing and fearing and worrying about it because people got you worked up. You know who likes to promote the BankX thing the most? The people with the limit orders and the people that are buying while you're selling because you're freaked out. They're able to stall that price down at these levels and capitalize on it because you are too afraid to act. That's what you're supposed to be, afraid to act. Why do you care what the price is today if you're not planning on selling for 2 years anyway?
That's
you
it.
need to know what the price is 2 years from now. You don't care. The price now is what deal you get. You know, you buy something, you put it on your shelf. You buy something, you put it on your shelf, and you wait until you get the price that you want out of it. That's what you get. You know,
it's a double-edged sword. It's always the double-edged sword of being vertically integrated, right? I mean, look, what's potentially negative right now is also going to be extremely great when prices are going up and everything's pulling everything else up. And I think, you know, you're absolutely right. We keep preaching it, and I know it's hard, but the whole mentality that gave so much success to so many people during the first kind of HEX happening, let's say, was that narrative of delayed gratification. There's a lot of power in if you feel like you've already positioned enough and you don't intend to keep DCAing in, as these prices get lower and lower.
Right now, it's supposed to be money that you don't need right now. You're not supposed to be dependent on your savings account. Your savings account is for you to save. This lottery ticket mentality or picking the winning horse bullshit that people that want to get you hyped up or pick this one or pick that one or choose this one or choose that one. Why not hold a little of each?
For sure. And there's so much power in
you got a good chance that you're going to pick a winner in there somewhere. But you know what? If you try to pick one and try to focus all your energy on one, you're screwed. If something else takes off and runs, you're screwed, right?
And
all of this space is speculation. All of this is speculation, and the wind can change. The problem is people don't know. There are variables. All the variables are not based on if BankX sells or if the ratio between PHEX. That's not all the ratios, guys. That's not all the variables. That is a couple variables. Yeah. If you knew all the variables, you'd have a mental breakdown. Can you name 100 variables? Would you like 100 variables? Would it make you feel more comfortable if I gave you 100 different variables, how this can all go horribly wrong? Or would that make you not participate? So you guys want to focus on a couple variables that could go wrong, right? And fudge yourself out of your position? See, so there's like boxes, there's levels of understanding, right? This box knows 2 variables. This box knows 10 variables. This box knows 100 variables. And if you don't understand the information that you're being given, your default fear, you're going to be paralyzed through fear, and you're going to have the inability to act as a result of not understanding the information that's being shared with you. And that is not effective.
100%. And I think there's a lot of power in setting and forgetting. I can't tell you the amount of people, for anyone who's relatively new, not just to this ecosystem, but crypto as a whole, I cannot tell you the amount of people that I know who have made significant amounts of money in crypto that almost surprised themselves with it. It almost like they're almost a victim of the same mindset trap that so many suffer from when it comes to bear market, bull market. They'll set positions, almost forget about them, not because they've set it and they've been disciplined, but because they haven't got caught up in the euphoria again until the bull cycle comes around. They'll take a look at a wallet that they've forgotten about, and all of a sudden they've made a real big amount of money and they're looking to get excited about crypto again. Use that mentality, because you don't have to, there's a finite amount of dry powder for most people. I get that too. You don't have to be DCAing consistently or feel like if you're not DCAing, you're missing out. You can set it and forget it right now, because like Johnny said, there's a lot of variables that will always be at play. And, in social media, if you've seen that social media documentary where we are all victim of like a self-perpetuating bubble of our own viewpoints, right? Social media isn't feeding you contrasting viewpoints a lot of the time. They're just perpetuating your own viewpoint back at you, because that's how the algorithm seems to work. You're going to likely be shown, whether you want it or not, people who share the same viewpoint. So you can easily get caught up in that momentum. It's like a snowball effect. And so that's what happens with FUD. People get wrapped up in that because they're hearing the same thing from what social media is showing them. You have to actively search for contrasting perspectives to balance yourself out during those times. You know,
let me throw this out here too. Listen very closely. In any coin that you pick one. I don't care if it's Bitcoin. I don't care if it's Ethereum. I don't care if it's any of the other coins. There is a wallet that can sell the price to zero. Listen very carefully to me. In any coin that you pick, there is one wallet that can sell the price down to zero. Are you listening? Because that's the truth. The 800 million that BankX has, there are other wallets out there that have 500 million, 600 million. There are entities that own 1 billion coins. That is always going to be over your head. Always. If it scares you right now to know that that's a possibility, you might as well tap out now, because this is not the last time that you're going to feel like tapping out, because guess what? In any coin that you pick, that is the way that the coins are distributed. You have to hope that people that are in these positions are smart enough not to screw themselves. Okay? Even in Bitcoin, the top 100 wallets, man, they can nuke that price anytime they see fit. They could drop Bitcoin right down to zero. Nobody talks about that. But when you got 16,000 coins in 16,000 coins in bids over all the exchanges, and Michael Saylor himself owns 100,000 coins, you guys, people get a false sense of confidence and think, well, I know what's going on. No, you don't. No, you don't. You're fudding yourself out. There is that potential risk in every single coin, every single day. And that, like I said, the 800 million, that is less than 2 days of the adoption amplifier. Follow me here. When the adoption amplifier launched, 500 million HEX came into circulation every single day for 352 days. Every day, 500 million came available on the market during its hyperinflationary phase. All right? 800 million HEX is not as much as you think it is. And at these prices, it's only $1 million. We were doing $10 million in volume. That is $1 million. Bitcoin's volume, if you think about that, Bitcoin, in order to maintain its price, they have to sell over $200 million worth of Bitcoin a month just to maintain the price.
Yeah.
And HEX, guess what? Just to maintain the price, well, nothing has to be sold. All you have to do is not sell. There's no
same
power
thing that
bills
caused
to
the
pay.
HEX run up.
There's no power bills to pay. There's no ASIC miners to buy. There's no companies to pay for. All you have to do is just not sell, and the price goes up. Usually it's the people that are dumping that are bitching that they're getting less prices out of it. Guess what, guys? I'm glad you're getting less now than you will be later if you're just going to exit your position, right? And these are these dogmas of crypto that people don't take into consideration. That they think, oh, this is a problem. This is a problem. They've always been problems. These things have always been problems. They are a problem for every coin. It's not HEX. It's not Pulse. You've got human behavior that is the problem, right? And eventually, the sellers tap out, and then nobody wants to give their shit away. They don't want to give it away. They don't want to give away their diamonds for marble prices. They don't want to give it away. And they're like, no, screw this. I'm going to put it on my shelf, and I'm going to hold it until I get my price. And if I don't get my price, it's going to sit on my shelf for years. And I don't care. So that's why you have to be in a position where you don't need to sell, because that's where you have the most power. If you over leverage, you're screwed, because 100%. Now you put yourself in a position where you have to go, oh shit, I got bills to pay. Let me see what I can hawk. You don't want to be in that position. You need to be in a position where you don't need to sell. You need to be in a position, if BankX sold tomorrow, you don't care. That's where you need to be. If somebody dumped 1 billion HEX on the market tomorrow and it flash crashes down, that shouldn't affect you one bit. You should be able to go, oh, thank God that's over. Okay, can we get on with the show now?
Yeah. And I agree with all of that. That was really well put. And I'll say this too, like just taking things a little more macro, a lot of people have been talking about, I guess their differing viewpoints on not sure if he's still there, but I'll keep on talking. A lot of people have differing viewpoints on kind of a lot of this kind of traditional finance coming over to crypto, right? Obviously, it's been a talking point for a while. I'm
not a
personally,
fan.
well, I'm personally
You
of
would
the
be on the
opinion
fan
that
side. I would be on the not a fan side because you come from the traditional finance sense. I see this as kind of a you can't beat them, own them, as kind of what the bank is doing.
well, that's why I'm interested in your point too, because you're right. I mean, I think we're both a little biased in our opinions. I think that now, as we're hearing these conversations take place outside of crypto and not just in crypto, it gives pretty strong indicators that it's happening to some set. I think if these spot ETFs do get their allowance, which it
We,
kind of is. Go on,
by the
sorry.
time we've heard about it, it's already been happening for the
For
past year.
sure.
That's what it comes down to. This has been happening. This is all pre-planned. It's all on target. You don't say no to BlackBerry. I'm going to say BlackBerry so we don't get banned. You don't say no to BlackBerry or you end up disappearing. So
Well, that's it too. And now you've got Charles Schwab, we've got Fidelity, we've got BlackRock coming to the forefront with their own exchanges. And so they're trying to muscle out some of the more tenured kind of, obviously, right? They're trying to take over the space. So in my opinion, and this is, I think
no, they've already taken over the space.
Oh, they have, of course. I mean,
they've got the exchanges. The exchanges are like banks. So you've got two companies that own all the mining. You got two companies making all the miners, and you've got a few companies that own all the exchanges, and they are giving permissions on who gets the ETFs, who gets the traded, and they can shut you off at any time. So what exactly is the point of Bitcoin if it has to go through a centralized exchange or centralized entity and they can shut you off? What exactly is the point then? They've totally killed the immutability and the confiscatability and everything, and then they get you to release control of your coins, so then they have them in their possession. And then you've got things like Grayscale. Well, guess what? That's non-redeemable for Bitcoin. That Bitcoin is gone. You're not getting your Bitcoin back out of that,
And so this is where I was heading with that. You're right, because in my opinion, and I'll give you where I think things will go. My kind of highlight a little some of the pros and cons with that, right? Yeah, I think obviously more money entering the space is probably a given. It's going to convince a lot of the TradFi folks who need someone like a Charles Schwab to guide their hand, however like centralized it is, and have that money enter the market. As that money comes in, I think I see a matriculation down through the past the blue chips into kind of as people get more educated, or as the folks that are already in the space start getting paydays, they start selling, they start getting more educated in the space, and then start to realize, oh shit, you know what? These decentralized kind of formats, these vehicles give me power, give me control, and therefore a lot more money ends up in the hands of ecosystems like us. And in my opinion, I mean, because there's been much debate about the mentality of Richard Hart and why he launched and why we had the delays and all that stuff. If we're thinking about this as a chess game, right? He kind of launched this at the perfect time, knowing probably that a lot of these conversations with spot ETFs and all these like the new exchanges coming to play, all of this TradFi money coming into the space, and then having a bear market to ingratiate ourselves to the folks that we can right now prior to all these new funds coming in come bull cycle. In my opinion, and I don't think this is just me being optimistic or me trying to think very positively about our ecosystem. We are very well positioned to receive a lot of that money that's trickling down from Bitcoin, Ethereum.
You have to know we exist.
And it all kind of comes full circle to this monetization conversation on X, where we want to be giving pedestals to the right people. We want to be educating, because those folks, the people that we are trying to educate, that already have somewhat probably of a slight background, let's say, in crypto, they know what a Bitcoin is. They've maybe bought it through a Coinbase. They've experienced that type of situation. They're growing.
They
right?
have ideas what they believe crypto is. And this is the problem, is people's perception of what crypto is and the reason it was invented in the first place have totally shifted. And the institutionalization of the crypto space is a result of people begging for other people to come in and buy their bags. That's what it is. People begging for someone else to come in and buy their bags is what has caused this institutionalization effect, where now, great, you got the institutional investors, all right, and they own more than you, and you want to worry about people dumping on your head, they don't give a shit about crypto. They're
No.
here for the money.
Oh, for
They don't
sure.
give a shit about your technology. They don't give a shit about your ideals, your principles, what you think about decentralized finance, peer-to-peer, self-sovereignty. No, they don't care about that. They're here to use it as the tool that it is to exploit and separate you from your money.
100%.
That's it.
100%. And I guess even going more macro on, I'm eager to get your thought on this because I know we had a little exchange on X a little earlier on, but seeing a lot, right, of the news, and this is kind of why I see the crypto narrative coming, a slightly different angle. Why it's coming to the forefront of many a kind of investment portfolio now is because, again, in my opinion, AI, right, coming in, so many companies looking to utilize it. I think there's going to be a lot of job losses, just as companies like Disney, right?
Yeah.
I think I posted earlier that they're actively searching for, 10 or 11 AI experts to come in to replace potentially 1,000 regular employees, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is going to have a knock-on effect, and to pretty much any entity looking to save money. You've got Elon Musk and a lot of other kind of industry leaders talking about or predicting this, universal basic income coming in, which it's sad, but you see a lot of people who, are perhaps claiming unemployment, or even those who have kind of, white collar, blue collar jobs that, even if you're a lawyer or a paralegal, there's AI tools out there now that are looking to replace you.
They're actually looking to more replace the white collar, the secretaries, the paralegals, it's actually coming for, it's not coming for the foundational jobs. AI is not going to go out there and pave the road. AI is not going to mow your lawn. Okay.
Yet.
Yeah. Okay.
You look at Boston Dynamics and some of the robots running obstacle courses. We're not far.
You could pay $50,000 for a robot that's going to mow your lawn, but it's not going to replace,
not anytime soon.
Nobody has that, right? Just buy a $1,000 tractor. How many times do you got to mow your lawn before it makes sense, before you stop paying somebody $50 a shot, to just mow your lawn? How many times you're going to mow your lawn a season, right? So certain things will not make practical sense. But again, paying somebody $100,000 a year, and you can replace 10 of those $100,000 a year salaries with a computer program, that's likely to happen. But whether it's gardening, whether it's road paving, whether it's coal mining, whether it's whatever, there construction, that is not going to be immediately replaced by AI. Now, some of the driving will be, because with these self-driving systems, they're talking about replacing truck drivers, because it's you got people that are on the road for hours and hours and hours. It can be unsafe, and a lot of accidents that are caused with trucking is horrible. You got people that fall asleep at the wheel because they're working real hard. Well, the robot doesn't sleep. So there are some things that are very much critical to infrastructure that are in danger as a result of some of these upgrades. And inevitably, these jobs being replaced, UBI is going to be a thing. There's no real way around it. But when you look at it, UBI would be like a replacement for it would be the new form of aid. It wouldn't be welfare. So. It would just be everybody gets UBI across the board sort of scenario, regardless of what you make. And it's just basic living income, because you're going to have difficulty finding employment if you're not already, doing something for yourself.
For sure. And I was going to say too, maybe I have a bit of a unique lens in this, given the fact I'm working with a couple of brands, but one, for instance, in the AI space, that is farming equipment, right? A company called Agseed, AGXEED, if anyone wants to check them out. But so these guys are, companies like this seem to be extremely popular in other, I guess, developing countries, where a company or a farming entity will employ a lot of farmhands, that'll employ a lot of people out there in the fields, but they have kind of made the analysis themselves that it's worth them ponying up the cash to buy one of these machines that has AI technology, drives itself, pre-program routes, and able to analyze, because not just of the potential long-term savings in monetarily kind of
But the
savings, but
production.
yeah, but it's also the issues that come with humans, right? I mean, they have, accidents, they'll have potential lawsuits, they'll have, and so just seeing the way that some of that is developing to kind of bring it back around to the crypto world. I mean, there is a huge opportunity, I think. I mean, not and I think we touched on it earlier where crypto is not really solving any pain points in the AI space right now. They're kind of almost two siloed industries that are both evolving and on the verge of potentially revolutionizing their industries, but they're not yet conjoined in any real way that is a home run right now. You
Yeah,
probably make money from the meme coin, but
it would just be sticking a sticker on it right now. They're saying this is an AI coin or whatever, and it's just sticking a sticker on it. Does that mean people won't buy it? No, actually, like stuff like Singular was like a long time ago. They were talking about AI. There was a coin called Deep Brain Chain back in the day that was
I
about
remember that.
AI. I have a stack of Deep Brain Chain. It's been delisted from every freaking exchange it is. It's actually a Neo ERC20 token, whatever those are called, and
Okay.
there's nothing you can't do anything with it, right? So there's all these coins that have come and gone with the great ideas of, we're gonna provide networking power to this or power ledger. We're gonna provide energy or I mean, there's all these narratives that don't seem to go anywhere in crypto, but it's like they're just telling you a story, right? They're telling you a story that goes along with the name of their token. Once upon a time, there was a token, and their goal was to be a token for Dennis. And there actually was such a thing, believe it or not. So why did Dennis need a token? They spend cash like the rest of us, right? So be careful of these things that are labeled AI or these AI startups, because it is the .com bubble. There might be something that follows through and does what they say they're going to do, and that's going to be very, very rare. So be very cautious. Don't just think buying a bunch of tickers with AI it's because they say it's related to AI, right? That's what I'm afraid of people doing. And our our community, or a lot of people that are new to the community, man, they just rush from one thing to the next thing to the next thing. They're looking for that one winning
Traders
horse.
lose money. Trading
That is,
mentality always comes out under that kind of
yeah,
due
and
diligence
they
and
are
hold.
sure to lose money that way. And it just really, it really bothers me that I see people jump from one thing to the other. The best thing you can do is build your position, save over time, and wait for the prices to come to you. Do not be in a position where you need to sell, because if you need to sell, you're going to be forced to sell at the most inopportune times. And as
For
soon
sure.
as you do, that price goes up. It's just like when you buy, the price goes down immediately. You're like, shit, price went down immediately right after you buy. Well, guess what happens when you sell? When you dump your bag, you were probably the last dude out. And then you have to sit there helplessly with an empty bag, watching the price climb without you. And then you get to be Greg, the great infamous Greg, that gets to say, damn, I shouldn't have sold my Bitcoin at 30 cents because now it's $8.
Yeah. While I'm reminded, I hinted at this a couple of weeks ago, but I've heard on the grapevine that a lot of those SPAC companies, the special acquisition companies, and for anyone who doesn't know what they are, they're basically companies that they put out an ETF or something very similar for people to buy into, and they take those funds and they invest in certain technologies, and that then transforms into a company, right? And therefore, you then own stock in whatever company they've invested in. I've heard on the grapevine, and I don't know, like, if I'm going to get dinged for letting this out before anyone else does.
Careful with the words.
Yeah, I don't know, how do I phrase this? There are going to be, in the not too distant future, some SPAC crypto, almost CBDC-ish currencies coming out that are kind of towing that line between stock market integration and crypto universe, and still basically doing the same thing, looking at AIs. And the reason I got notified about it was I was part of kind of an AI conversation with one of my clients. But there are the crossover is happening now in so many different ways. And I know I have a bit more of a vested interest in the TradFi stuff coming over, but I really do think that it's interesting to to see a lot of this stuff and how, like, as a community, we can really look to capitalize on that as well, because we're not ready for a lot of it. I mean, we're not mature enough yet. We're too many red flags for big institutions to invest in, which simply is the case right now, right? We'll graduate out of that. I think we'll be around for a good long
See,
while.
I don't even want the institutional money. Our liquidity is so low. I don't want the institutional money. I don't want to be institutionalized. That's not what I want. Our liquidity is low enough that the average participant can come in and buy their share and move the price up.
Well, the reason I want it is because by the time we get there, we've already seen massive price appreciation, and we get to reap the rewards for being early, right?
Yeah, but what saved us? What really saved us from going to zero? Could you imagine if we were delisted?
Yeah.
You know, so like we did not get in on all the exchanges, right? So you know, a delisting used to be death for a coin. Well, they can't delist us. Now, everyone's like, well, Uniswap delisted us. No, not exactly. They delisted us from their centralized front end. They obfuscated it. They didn't really delist it. They obfuscated it. So they're hiding it in plain sight. It's still on the smart contract. The liquidity is still there because it is a DEX and because the code is immutable that's on the back end. All you have to do is make a new front end. And HEX is the same way. If hex.com goes down, guess what? We still have other front ends. You can build your own front end. Many people have. We have all kinds of different Uniswap front ends. So there's no reason really to move that liquidity at all because it's there and we could utilize it, right? And we don't actually have to trade on Uniswap to give them volume. You can buy both hexes over on Pulsechain, right? Now you would have to move it back over if you're staking on the Ethereum side, but if you're just trading, like a lot of people are, because that's where all the liquidity is. I see you guys, you're not really staking on Pulse side like you say you are. You're not staking, you're waiting for a price bump. I know what you're doing. I see it in the charts. Okay. There's not much more staking happening over there, and there should be a lot more staking happening over there if it were for the fact that, well, the staking fees. So I'm sorry, that's not what's happening. What people are doing is they're picking the winning horse. They're saying, this is where I'm going to devote myself, and they're hoping for a price pump to exit their liquid position. So most of the liquid positions, other than the BankX guys, are actually floating over there on the Pulse side right now. So
there is that too. I just thinking, like, I mean, my like I say, I'm more maybe thinking a little more longer term than of how that's going to benefit us. Because I mean, do you think we get to marquee level at all without that money coming in? I don't know if retail revenue is going to be enough to do that. I mean, don't get me wrong; it'll serve its purpose the next cycle or two, right? I think we'll see some, you know, for everyone looking for price appreciation. We'll see that just through this retail money. And I'm not saying, you know, for a good long while, our target audience isn't institutional money. Maybe it's the individuals in those institutions. They're not going to get the green light to invest big, huge institutional funds, but they will maybe look to bank and fund their own portfolios, right?
I am happy to tell the little guys today that regardless of which hex you want, achieving 1 million hex is a massive milestone, and it was absolutely impossible. So today, I mean, I'm not looking at prices, but at half a cent, that's $5,000 for 1 million hex. That $5,000 at the top was $500,000. So my question is, do you think we could go back up there? How close do you think we can go back up there? Do you know that 1 million hex, if it goes up just a penny in price, and you own 1 million hex, how much is that, guys? How much is that, guys?
Yeah.
Just a penny.
And I think it's inevitable, my opinion. I mean, at least to get back to where we were.
10 grand, isn't it? If I did the math right.
Yeah, that's that. Yeah.
10 grand. Every time hex moves a penny, it's 10 grand.
Yeah, that's a real nice number to have in your head when everyone's euphoric. We're in the bull cycle, and moving a penny or 2 or 10 in a day can happen. And look,
Oh God, yeah, it went from 11 cents to 33 cents in 30 days.
that's
So
crazy,
just
right?
imagine that,
And
right?
we have a lot of experienced heads in crypto as a whole talking about a 10 trillion influx, right? Which puts us in a whole different ball game. That's we're positioned to grab, our share of that market. And and like I say, that's where the network effect comes in. That's where a lot of our selling points come through when we kind of approach that territory. But
Mhm.
for anyone who's I mean, and we see it all the time. There are a lot, even influencers out there who should probably know a little better, but they've curbed their enthusiasm
They
on.
have HEX.
And it
No,
yeah
they
it,
have HEX. They
of course
are
they
they
do.
are
They're playing the
using
same
this as an
game.
accumulate. They're using this as accumulating. They are fudding the price to get plebs to shake out so that they can get their positions. We, as plebs, selling the price down, folks. Guess what? We have provided opportunity for the haters to get better prices than us, and I hate that. I hate that idea that these haters are having these wonderfully low prices right now to get an entry point and brag about it later on how we paid more than they did and how they turn around and sell on our heads at higher prices because they were able to get the deals that we gave them by giving up our positions. It's gonna be ugly. And D-Based is saying, the potential onboards on Uniswap here, don't know about Hex. Uh, well, here's the thing, man. Here's the thing. You know, you know how to use a different front end. You know how to use ethhex.com. You know how to use hedron.app.pro. You know how to get it. See, you've got a little extra information that somebody else doesn't. So that's your advantage because you know how to get something that everybody else doesn't know how to get. So that actually creates an advantage for the people that are in the ecosystem to build their positions before these things get corrected and they become easier to get. So on the other side of things, the coast is going up and live. I think they are up and
They're
live.
up and live
And
now, yeah.
you
Yep.
can buy Pulsechain directly, go straight to PulseX and buy whatever the hell you want. So you don't even have to deal with the Ethereum side anymore if you don't want to. You don't have
And
to
it's
deal with Uniswap anymore if you don't want to.
It's
Okay.
also important to note that, yeah, I totally agree with the uni stuff. Like it's made things a little tougher,
Yeah.
but I mean that's temporary. We're in the moment. We're
Mhm.
not going to be playing to the same platforms, even in a few months. Really, I mean, this is I mean, it's cliche to say, but it's such an evolving space that we don't know what's going to gain popularity. So many
Nope.
coins have come out of the woodwork every single cycle and become the new front runners in whatever they're doing. DEXs are no different, or in Uni's case, the centralized exchange that it is. But I think that I
We
think that
made Uniswap. Uniswap
Pulsex
would
may
not be where
make
it
a name
was
by then.
today if we didn't give them 40% of their trading volume for the first 3 months.
Yeah.
We made Uniswap popular. We advertised for them. We told people to get off the centralized exchanges and use DEXs. And then it turns out they're gatekeeping pukes. Okay. And so this is not the first time. We made Nomics popular. And then Nomics turned our back on us. And guess what? Nomics doesn't have a website anymore.
Yeah.
Guess what? Uniswap, well, they lost about 37% of their volume as a result of this bullshit that they did. Okay. And CoinMarketCap has like a 1 rating now as a result of their gatekeeping and hiding us on page 3. We are the power, guys. You got to stop letting yourself feel powerless because the price chart doesn't look good right now. We have power. We are enforcing change. We are making people listen. We got a movie in 40 states about crypto. Who has done that? What community has done that? What community has gotten a 5-time Emmy Award winning crew to produce a movie for them and get it in 40 theaters throughout the United States and now going international? Who does that? How many coins out there have 50 plus streamers, known personalities? How many have 48-hour live streams with 70 different known personalities talking about their community and their coin? Who does that? Who gets more engagement than a Hexicans? And even the large influencers know it. And that's why they talk about us, because they aren't getting any engagement if it weren't for us.
100%. And I guess I was speaking of the movie. I mean, I did see some of your posts where you were on the mic and all of that good stuff.
Mhm.
What did you think? I managed to go to the Miami kind of pre-premiere, if you will. I managed to hang out with a lot of faces that I'd spoken to, but I hadn't, like Walrus and Captain RG3 and a bunch of people were there, and we managed to go out and make ourselves some fresh hangovers for the next day. But I'm interested to hear your thoughts, not just on the movie itself, but how you think that is going to impact the onboarding, both short term and long term.
Oh, so everybody loves the movie because everybody loves it at strength. So here's how I look at the movie. The movie does not pump the price. The movie raises awareness that something exists that people don't know about. Just like when I heard about Bitcoin, I knew that it existed, but until the price pumped up to $2,000, I didn't care. Okay. So the movie raises awareness that this thing exists. It's like putting a vote for whatever candidate in your front yard. It's everywhere. It's in people's heads. It's in their awareness. They've heard of it. Captain Jack Sparrow's, but you have heard of me, right? That's what this is right now.
Yeah.
Where we are at on the market, it looks like RG3 scammed his buddy. His buddy lost his house money. Mikey's going to get divorced, and Richard's just partying it up. That's what the movie looks like. Okay. Yeah. That's how it's kind of came out. There were 100 plus personalities that were not shown in the movie. I don't think it highlighted the most positive points. I think it provided a large amount of skepticism. The protagonists in this movie were Kelly and Lamont. And they should be very proud of it, because they provided the best arguments anybody has.
Yeah.
That anybody has in the crypto space, providing the best case against HEX. Okay. And I understand where they're coming from. Actually, I'd love to sit down with them because it just seems like there were a lot of unanswered scenarios and perspective. Because what happens is people get in their biases, and biases keep you from seeing innovation or change. Because this is the way it's always been. This is the way it's always going to be, and you get locked into that dreadnought of being change resistant. And HEX is innovative, and people don't want to hear that. No. You guys haven't made. No, look, the crypto space hasn't made anything innovative in a very long time, shy of decentralized exchanges, which apparently can also be censored. So the crypto space has not been really doing things that are innovative. It's usually just a story, a promise, and a narrative, and people are used to that. Well, HEX by design is like trying to describe a platypus to somebody who's never seen one before, right? It kind of looks like a duck. It kind of has a flat tail like a beaver. It's poisonous. It's a mammal, but it lays eggs. And you're trying to explain this to somebody, and they're like, "You're crazy. This thing doesn't exist." And that's what it's like trying to explain HEX in the crypto space. It's the truth. It's the absolute truth. We're describing a platypus, and they're like, that ain't right. That don't exist. So what is HEX? HEX is basically Bitcoin with a proof of work change, from proof of work to proof of stake. It is an inflationary model that distributes coins in a unique way instead of paying miners. And Richard adds a little bit here, and that's where people's brains shut off. But instead of paying miners, it's paying stakers. The qualifying action is not to run a miner or buy a miner from China, run a miner, pay a power bill. The qualifying action is you make a contract with yourself on how long you want to park your coins. And then when you do, you get the distribution of the inflation. And what I call it is a dynamic deferred inflationary model, which is the most accurate description of what HEX's inflationary model is. Because it's not just an inflationary model, it's a dynamic deferred inflationary model, which means even the coins that come out are not just immediately dropped on the market, they are sent out to the future. And when people don't honor their terms, instead of those coins coming out and being dropped on the market, those are also then a majority of them sent out to the future. So what it does, instead of inflating like a normal inflationary rate, is it sends those coins out to the future when people are not completing their terms. And that's why it is a dynamic deferred inflationary model. And that's very important. Second innovation is the T-share system. The T-share system is designed as a way to represent or emulate compounding interest without actually compounding interest. And it actually outcompetes the typical way of compounding interest. Well, to understand that, you have to understand what compound interest is, which you do, finance. But compounding means you take and you let your money roll over and you keep earning your principal plus your yield, principal plus your yield, principal plus your yield. What the T-share system allows you to do is set a time ahead of schedule so that when the new people come in, they pay a higher rate, which simulates that compounding interest without moving your position. So because you made that pledge, it gives you the benefit of that compounding without actually having to do it. It's automated, right? Because it gives you the better rate ahead. And that was actually innovative too. The T-share system ensures that longer always pays better. And that's what was important in this development. And Deb Kyle came up. He's the godfather of the T-share system. He is the guy that designed this in such a way that basically when you purchase your T-share, it locks in that rate for that extended period of time. And the final part of that is the truth engine. So there's 3 points here. They're very, very distinctly different about HEX, whether it's the tail and the bill and the fur and the whatever, the platypus. The truth engine is the final part. That is where you are making promises to yourself, okay? Just yourself. The truth engine is part of the code. You make a promise to yourself to keep your terms. If you do not keep the terms, you are penalized. Those penalties are not paid to a bank. They are paid to the rest of the community. So you have to hold yourself accountable to this system for the promises that you make to yourself, or the community gets paid. Actually, there's even more than that. There's also a Deadman switch. The OA is a Deadman switch. All right. So if you're worried about the founder of the coin being compromised, the OA can self-nuke itself and redistribute to the community. And then the OA no longer has any coins. It's a Deadman switch.
It's so ironic too, because there's so much synergy with TradFi. There's so much synergy with how, imagine, like, you know, the experienced investor even who does have that self-governance, that discipline, and knows fully well that these are the elements that go into a long-term portfolio, that long-term investment strategy. So you'd think, I mean, that when we, again, you know, as we're evolving as an ecosystem,
it's a platypus, man. They're not ready to believe it exists yet until they can identify it. And so what do people do? If you're describing a platypus, what do, guys? First thing you say, it has a duck bill, okay? And it has a beaver tail. So you take your knowns, right? Whatever your knowns are. Maybe you only know pump and dump coins. So you apply your knowns to this platypus and try to describe it with what little knowns that you have, and compare it to things that you're familiar with that you think other people are going to recognize to be able to describe this thing. When you're describing a new innovation, it's almost impossible because you're talking about things that didn't exist yesterday, right?
Yeah.
They didn't exist yesterday. How do you explain that to someone? You can only describe it with things that are similar. And that's why people give it Richard shit. Well, it's not a CD. No, it's actually more like a CD emulator. It's a code that runs. It's units of account. It's based on like a CD, but it's an emulator because it has nothing to do with US dollars. And the reason it can pay the yield that it does is because it's generated by the code. I like to do this, Ben. I like to say, that's HEX. It's complete. It's a cartridge. You plug it in, you earn gold. We took out the monsters and we replaced it with a stopwatch. That's it. That's it. That's how damn simple it is. If you really want to understand the dynamics and the mechanics and the programming that goes into it, I can give you that too. But really what it comes down to is This has nothing to do with the creator. I don't know who the creator is. I don't care who the creator is. I don't care how many video games he has. I don't care. All I care is if I plug this in, I get more coins out, and that works for me. That's fine. Why do I care how many coins the creator has or how many cartridges the creator has? Why do I care? Why do I care what the creator's doing with the rest of the tokens? It just doesn't make sense.
Yep.
You know?
Yep.
All I know is if I plug this in, it does what it's supposed to do. I get my reward. I can take my reward out of the
immutably
game and put it on the open market, and it has a value there. That's it. It's really all there is to it.
God, there is going to be so many infographics emerging from this conversation, including a platypus. What better way? What better? Is that the first time you've used that?
No.
Oh, I was going to say that.
It's been used a couple times. I don't even know that I'm the first guy that used it, but it's the truth, man. You know, so people are struggling, and especially if they're very familiar, right? So the people that have been in the crypto space for a long time are going to be the worst because they're familiar with a token, a promise, a white paper. You know what a white paper is? I'll tell you what a white paper is. It's a list of broken promises. It's a Dear John letter. It's a hopeful timeline. I'm sorry, guys. This is what we intended to do, but it's never going to happen. HEX is the only token that comes with an instruction manual because it actually has functionality. And that instruction manual is called the HEX Layman's Guide, and you can Google it. So we are the only token with an instruction manual that explains to you the functionality of the code and how it works. Now, does that help you? Does it really help you to know how to build an engine if all you want to do is drive a car? No. If you don't understand how an engine is built, you might be scared. You might be scared. Oh my God, internal combustion engine. It's going to explode. This is what happens when you give people information that they don't understand, is they immediately go into default fear. So sometimes we can overstimulate people's minds by giving them too much information, and then they fill in the blank with default fear, and then they don't participate. So it's hard to have these conversations about complex subjects because it just goes right by people's heads, or they think you're being a smarty pants and you're trying to outsmart people, right? You know, and it's frustrating. It's so frustrating. There's got to be an easy way to do it, and that's why I do this. That's why I do this. Look, dude.
It's so true, and you're not wrong, because I feel like that the message itself gets diluted to the point where it's almost like listening to a mad scientist talking about something that sure is really cool.
You know, that's like my job, right? Professional mad scientist. Yeah, that's totally my job.
It took me a while to get my head around HEX even from the beginning, and this is coming from someone who's, again, played around in the crypto space a fair amount, and so coming at this with probably more of an old school investor mentality mixed with a little bit of crypto knowledge and still struggling to get my head around.
What are you familiar with in the crypto? What are you used to?
Well, for me, I mean, I entered the space with I was very early into Ethereum. Ended up, as most people, selling super early. I went down a different route. I got a warehouse down in Latin America and bought a bunch of, basically set up a mining farm for Bitcoin at the time, Litecoin machines too, and try to play my luck a little bit on that front.
So you bought shovels for the gold rush.
Yeah. Business 101, really, right? Yeah.
You bought shovels for the gold rush. Who made the money?
It should have been me. I mean, I ended up getting confiscated by the government, but by the Venezuelan government.
At a physical point of failure, okay, this is important here. You bought shovels to go gold mining, and the government came and confiscated your shit.
It's a lot of lessons to be learned in that, right?
So that is a physical point of failure, number one. Where is HEX's physical point of failure? Where do you have to buy miners to mine HEX?
Exactly. Yeah.
So instead, when people are like thinking, oh, I'm down money. Yeah. Well, guess what? If you would have been Ben, and you bought a bunch of miners, first of all, you're out the money for the mining equipment. You're out the money for the facility. And now you're out the money completely because they just came and ganked your shit, and it was a physical point of failure, so you made nothing.
100%.
How are they going to take your HEX stakes?
Yep. And for me, that was a huge selling point. Just personally speaking, you're absolutely right, because you're eradicating a lot of the risk factors.
You're taking out the risk in the point of failures. It's just immutable code. It's just a cartridge. And you know what? You can delete it off your computer, go somewhere else, and type it back in your computer and play again. And if the websites go down, because this is the shit that pisses me off. This is the thing that's very important. Okay, Celsius, Luna, BlockFi shut down their website. Done. You're done. Single point of failure. HEX is immutable code. What does that mean? This is very, very freaking important. This is the biggest sell point on HEX there is. If Richard goes to jail, if hex.com goes down, the code still works.
Yeah.
No one can stop you from using it. Okay? You can go on to etherscan.io, click write the contract function. You can end your stakes. Okay? There's Staker app, tshare.app, backuphex.com, icosa.pro. There are all these different front ends. All of those websites have to all be shut down at once in order for you to no longer have access to your HEX stakes.
Yep.
Okay. So there is always, you're always able to access them. Nobody can take them from you. And like I said, you can delete your keys off your computer, pretend like you're not even in crypto for the next 5 years, come back when your stakes end, punch in your keys, and there's your HEX stakes. And nobody can steal it from you.
And that's also the added benefit of having a community like ours that's on kind of auto right now. I mean, you know, you have the founder who's taking a step back from, you know, I get it too. It's the bear market. I'm not sure if it's the time that he's going to actually be able to say anything that's going to permanently move things in neither direction. So I'm totally fine with him not stepping up yet. But I mean, the fact is that we have a self-perpetuating community that also adds to, you know, the sell factor, let's say, of the of HEX, of the ecosystem, where it is immutable. It's not, the code will still run, and you have an engine, aka the community, behind it anyway, which is huge. I mean, that's one of the benefits too of, you know, even though it seems to be we're finding the sweet spot of being able to onboard in a, you know, infographic-y type way where we make it digestible. The people who do understand it are also the people who are kind of very, you know, they're able to regurgitate a lot of the same selling points over and over again because they still matter. They're still, you know, pretty unique. And, you know, I really think that the decentralized narrative is going to grow more and more and more as we start going into the bear cycle, a bull cycle, as we start seeing.
So this is,
you know,
this is another thing, the decentralized narrative. Let's talk about this. Decentralized narrative. Guess what? It's bullshit. Crypto is not decentralized. Okay.
No.
Not in ownership. Never has been. Okay. Satoshi started with 100% of all the coins. That's not very decentralized. Okay. Right now, the top 100 wallets own like 50% of all Bitcoin. That's the most decentralized. There is no such thing as an ERC20 token that does not have an OA. Just what they do with it is they're not honest about it. And they split it up in the different files, and they give you a pretty little pie chart, and they say, oh, this one's for developer. Oh, this one's for marketing. Oh, this one's for this. Oh, this one's for that. And one dude still owns all the damn coins. And just to be clear, Binance own 99.45% in their top 100 wallets. And as soon as I put a video together and did that, boom, they split it up in other little wallets. But the fact is, the reason they're able to hold their price levels is because you don't have a bunch of coins out there. You know why pump and dumps happen? Because they drop all the coins on the market. Okay? They let go of all their reserves. And then there's always somebody that has a whole bunch of coins that can just dump them on the market, and they can't hold the values. Once they hit certain evaluations, everybody taps out and they try to exit at the same time, and you end up with this hard spike down. How you avoid that is the successful tokens don't put all their supply on the market. They don't. There is only so much in the case. This is why, you know, and Sami and me go back and forth about this because he's saying market cap matters. Here's the problem with that. It's not market cap. It's available supply. That matters. He already had an equation for that. You take 1/20th, and that's its actual market cap if you're trying to use the metric. That is actual market cap. 1/20th of total market cap, because each ERC20 token is over 90% owned in the top 100 wallets. And if you don't believe me, that's fine. You don't have to. I'll tell you what you do. You go on etherscan.io, you pick up your favorite token, and then you look at the top 100 wallets that own 90% of it. And Hexo did this. He did a whole list of it, but people don't want to listen to that. No, because they know who they believe has the coins. They want to make Richard some kind of target because he owns a certain amount of the coins, right? But because they split it up and say an anonymous this, anonymous that, that makes it better. That doesn't make it better at all. You've got unknown entities that own 90% of the coins that can rug pull you at any point in time they choose with no threat to their reputation.
It's
No
naive
threat.
optics.
There's nothing.
100% agree. Yeah, super naive optics, and you're right. You know, they play around with that too, like it actually means something. It doesn't.
It doesn't.
But there is an issue in, you know, you try to convince the masses of that, right? You try to convince the masses that having an OA that hasn't ever sold
because
anything.
they've been led to believe it's a certain way, and they can't change their crypto dogma. Decentralization was a marketing shill point, right? And there's a difference between decentralization and network and decentralization and ownership. And what we have, like in Pulse, we have centralized ownership. Sure. Yeah, there's an OA that owns the majority of the coins, which is what you want for a successful project. You do not want 100% on the market where it's split up, that you've got all these people that can just slam the price anytime when they're playing like Russian roulette when they want to drop the price. You don't want that. You want to be in a position. So what Binance does is they buy their coins back. They do a buyback. That's how they maintain their level of price, was being, they'll buy it back if it drops to this level. And then hopefully that 0.45% that's actually in circulation doesn't sell, right? Yeah. But when they do, they have to buy it back. And what do they actually do is they create this false evaluation of market cap, and they borrow against that. And that's what these exchanges do. Same with FTT. And the reason they were able to shut down FTX was because they know the game. They're playing it too. They're all playing it too. They're creating tokens and they're borrowing against their own allocations. That's what they're doing. Okay. So that end of the spectrum is all bullshit. And I don't like any of that. That's not true decentralization. That's creating false market caps. It's all bullshit. But oh God, man, I can give myself an aneurysm here. Go ahead, Ben.
Yeah, no, I was good. And by the way, NBBN, thank you for that. This is the first live stream I've done. So this is actually the first one I've received as well. So thank you. But no, I completely get what you're saying too. I will say that when they are playing that game, I mean, double-edged sword a little bit. There are maybe some silver linings to that in terms of again, coming from TradFi more so and trying to apply maybe a square peg in a round hole. But I think it's a way to pump price maybe temporarily, but it's not. It's leaving things in a situation where we don't have any stability, and it's going to ultimately leave everyone else who's holding bags there at risk. So I completely agree with what you're saying as well. But yeah, no, I get it, man, and I think that's, for me, the conversations that I have too in terms of looking. I'll say onboarding, because it is. I mean, I'm trying to be a little bit more strategic than just simply trying to get people to buy into the ecosystem. I mean, some of the conversations that I'm having, it's really a case of seeing how we can implement something where it makes sense to, folks getting into, I don't know, as we start seeing, companies taking a bit more of a foothold into the crypto space, what that means, what kind of tokens, what kind of vehicles. And the biggest roadblock is exactly what you're saying about them trying to understand what the difference is between DeFi, how it's done. And it sounds obvious to us, and everything what you're saying is completely true, but not everyone is able to communicate it in that way.
That's the problem. DeFi was bastardized. The word DeFi was bastardized by companies like Celsius, Luna, FTX. It was bastardized. That term came out and they said, we're decentralized finance. No, you're not. You are centralized finance with a DeFi sticker, a counterfeit, right? A knockoff. Literally, it was the centralized exchange with a DeFi sticker on it. And then they got all the listings for the DeFi coins on CoinMarketCap, which is fine. We got left off that list, but that's fine, because HEX did not need to be associated with any of that garbage. And that actually saved us a little bit. The problem is our Hexagon community wants to argue, yeah, but we're true DeFi. And DeFi is already a curse word for most people because they've already gotten whooped by somebody with a DeFi sticker, right?
Probably by design, right?
With a DeFi name tag, and they don't whip their ass. And they're like, DeFi, never mind. I'm going to stay away from that. I know exactly what that is because their experience has been with fake DeFi. So to use that word doesn't help us anymore because they've done bastardized it, right? Yeah. Even though the only really true DeFi, and again, I'm going to give credit where it's due, even though I don't like the fuckers, but Uniswap was DeFi because on the back end, it is immutable smart codes. Okay.
Yeah.
On their front end, they're a bunch of censorship pukes, but we're going to skip that. On the back end, it was true DeFi because you're able to be a liquidity provider, earn fees, etc. From doing that, and then the code works. It's immutable. HEX, also DeFi. It's immutable code. It's a cartridge that you play by yourself, earning your own coins. And you know what? According to whatever the program says, you get coins. You get coins. There's no mystery. The code says up to 40%. You can get up to 40% codes because it's what's in the programming. How many coins you get for slaying the giant dragon, it's in the code. Nobody gets to say what it is. It doesn't require money. It doesn't require new users. It doesn't require anything. The inflation happens whether you're there or not to collect it. If you're not there to collect it, then it goes to the other people that are there to collect it. It has nothing to do with that. So this is where they have trouble because everybody expects that you have to give your money to someone else to earn yield. They don't understand that all yield comes from inflation, and that's where it comes from. It comes from an increase in the supply.
Or leverage.
And then and who qualifies for that increase in supply is based on the qualifying actions that they take. In Bitcoin, it's burning the miners. In HEX, it's just agreeing to lock up. So this is the fun. This is the way you do this. This is the way you approach this. You got your Bitcoin person. Imagine if Bitcoin implemented an update where you could time lock your Bitcoin and you would receive the miner rewards. This is how you do it. Would you be for that?
Yeah.
If you could just lock
Right.
your Bitcoin and receive more Bitcoin, and then the miners no longer received it, you got the miner rewards.
I mean,
congratulations, you're a Hexagon.
Exactly.
Because that's what we do.
Yeah.
That's exactly what we do. And you know what? If you like Bitcoin and you don't like HEX, you can stake your HEX, earn HEX, sell your HEX for sats because it does have a sat value. Can you
I didn't really think about that, but yeah.
Can you stake your Bitcoin and make more Bitcoin? No, not unless you give it to somebody else that may or may not give it back to you. You can't, but you can stake your HEX and you can buy more Bitcoin with it because you can end your stake, restake your principal, take your yield, and purchase wrapped Bitcoin with it. And then you can change your wrapped Bitcoin back into Bitcoin and stack your sats. You like Bitcoin? You want to stack sats? Guess what? HEX is a tool. HEX is a game that would allow you to get more Bitcoin on your Bitcoin without actually having to purchase more. Wouldn't you like that? Wouldn't you like that tool? Because that's what it does. And you know what? Nobody can keep it. Nobody can take it from you. It works as long as you hold it. It's immutable. It's a cartridge.
Platypuses and cartridges. I mean, look, I gotta maybe edit the thumbnail on this.
Oh my God. Platypus is, oh my.
Dude, that's what I love though, man. Nobody explains HEX better than you. I've, and I remember seeing a lot of the streams that you were a part of and really utilizing that to make sense of this too, because, much the same as a lot of people. I
platypus. You gotta explain the platypus. That's why. It's hard, man.
It really is. And look, if you look at the comments here, by the way, I'm seeing another proponent for the Kayge and Chaos podcast. Still think that should be a thing.
Well, look, and Ben, you're out there, spitting some serious game, and really, you're very articulate and well spoken. And I would like to see more streamers like you out there that have an education for the financial markets and can actually give people real advice that has the experience out there. And I would like to see more of that because, we need people that are representative of the community that have the background in education that can rub elbows with the financial institutions and such and be taken seriously, right?
I would totally agree.
And I don't want to do it. I want to be a kid. I want to play with my toys. I want to have a good old time. I don't want to do it. I want you to do it. So I want to promote you, and I want everybody to smash that like button and give Ben a subscribe because he's out here fighting for us, guys.
It's and you know what, you're totally right, and it's funny, and it kind of came to you know, that type of conversation when we went to watch the premiere. I took my wife to it, and I asked her. She's not very knowledgeable about crypto. You know, she's kind of like, you manage that. Same with finance, same with all that stuff.
Oh, I got the same problem.
But she's a smart person, you know, and it was a case of, what do you think of that? And she was like, well, it seems like a bit of a cult, but a good one. One that she enjoyed the people. She enjoyed the atmosphere.
Like, oh my God.
But it was very much one of how, like, she knows my network a little bit, right? And she's like, I can't imagine X and X being interested in it. Or I can't imagine the same circle kind of taking place. And I was like, well, you know what? You're absolutely right. And part of my branding right now, in terms of where I kind of see things going, because for me this has been more of a litmus test more than anything, just to put a little bit of content out, kind of almost like a toe in the water, so to speak. But I am working on something where it's going to be really, you know, that in kind of intersection of TradFi, maybe a little bit of VC and crypto, and really look to, you know, obviously work this community into a lot of those conversations that I have, you know, some of my network on the streams, right? Where they're going to be, it's going to be a different tact, because they're not going to want to sit here and talk about an ecosystem that they don't really know much about to begin with. But it's more a case of having, you know, various areas of expertise and different ethos in investing, perhaps, and what's going on in the industry, and really strategically working backwards on a lot of that to include a lot of this narrative. And I think that, I mean, you know, and I don't know how much impact on an ecosystem one, you know, new channels going to have, but I do agree with you in that we do need a lot more, and I hate to use the term, but maybe business or finance savvy people talking about it. And I think we have the unique selling points in place. We have the structure. Now we have a head honcho who looks to kind of be, you know, gravitating a little bit more so into humble mode. And so maybe that's not so much of a red flag or an off put for certain personality types. But
Satoshi disappeared. Satoshi completely disappeared, dude.
For sure.
So the
still alive, right?
goes on. The product goes on. The code goes on. You know, I think the HEX community is, as you know, look, guys, Richard is not a god. You got to stop being a fanboy. You got to stop projecting your ideas of what you think Richard is and what you think he should be and what you think you should be doing. He doesn't work for you. He's a dude, right? He is a dude. He created a really awesome thing, and for that, you can be grateful for it. But you do not have to kiss his ass. You do not have to hero worship. He is a guy, you know. And the more we do this, you know, I mean, that's what everybody's saying. You know, it's like everybody's saying, like, you know, we worship him or something. You know, look, you can be grateful for what he's done and what he's built and what he plans to do. You can look at him as kind of our politician, a representative of the space that we believe and we stand behind, because we expect that if anybody's going to get anything done in this crypto space, it's him. But the stuff that makes us look culty, you know, people professing their undying love for him, you know, all the time, just ego stuff. Honestly, guys, you have to understand something. If you want respect from somebody, you can't throw out your undying love and devotion and fanboyness if you want somebody to respect you. Yep. You need to be in a position where you can agree and you can disagree. You can't just be wholeheartedly all in, or you're not going to get the respect. You know, it creeps people out, right? You know, if I've got fans that are hanging on my every word, creeps me out. I'll be honest with you. I'll be honest with you. It can be creepy, right? Because I'm just a person too. Right? I can be wrong. We are in a speculative space, right? I'm going to do the best of my ability to present the variables to you and point out what can and can't go wrong. But, you know, people are going to take me out of context. People are going to take me out of context. People are going to throw me under the bus.
They have, and they currently do, right?
Yeah,
You're a
yeah.
victim of your
Well,
own success, I think. I mean, you're
like I care, but I mean, it's
yeah, well, that's the
still,
thing too. That breeds more interest. Your
yeah,
dismissal of the attention you get is something that is probably perpetuated a lot more.
yeah. I gained another 1,000 followers for it, while other people lose followers by kicking himself in the nuts. Yeah, it works out great, right? And all you can do is let them do it. All you can do is let them do it, and so that's what happens, Ben, when you go out and you try to help new streamers get popular, like I'm doing right now. So don't kick me in the
Very
nuts
much appreciated, brother.
or cut my clips up and throw them out of context, because I'm taking the time to do this, because I would like to see you get some more traction. I don't think it's fair. I don't think it's fair that you should only have 1,500 followers on Twitter. I don't think that's fair.
I appreciate it. And you know what, man? Like as my channel progresses a little bit and I start working in a lot more conversations with some of those TradFi folks, I would love to have you be a part of some of those conversations too, because while you do not want to while you don't want to kind of approach those guys or be the guy flying that kind of TradFi flag yourself, I do think that the way you speak and you're almost, you're just your personality in general can make for some really good content too. Because I
I'm
think
cursed.
well, the way you express and really set the information out as digestible as possible. You know enough about the TradFi world that you're not in alien land, right? You're still, it's not rocket science, and I think that could potentially cause some real good conversations to take place and help kind of with that hybrid, initiation into some of that TradFi stuff. So,
And
dude,
Gary's another one too, because Gary does financing, and originally his name was, they called him Funding Jim, because what he did was he did a lot of financing for financing for businesses, telling you how to do
I met him at
startups
the
and
premiere.
stuff like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
So he's a real good one for that.
I
I've
hit
had
him
to
up
build
actually.
my company, man. I have such an unusual company. I've had to prove myself all my life. So I to get funding from banks and stuff, they've constantly told me I was crazy, and that I would get denied for loans and stuff. Even with beautiful immaculate credit, they're like, oh, we're not backing that. It's like, okay, fine. Well, when I do it, you ain't getting your cut either, and and then you just move on. But I mean, it's funny. It's actually funny to me, building a physical company, a solid business. It's funny to me that in crypto, all you got to be is a 12-year-old in your basement, and you make an NFT and people send you money, right? And then and then they wonder why they rug it on them, right? And it's like, in my world, you have to follow through with what you say you're going to do. It's unheard of, right?
Yeah.
It's career ending if you say, okay, I'm going to take this project, I'm going to build a 12-foot tall dragon with a 21-foot wingspan. You better damn well do it, or your life is over, right? Your career is over if you take a job that you can't do. And I see a lot of people do it now. A lot of people take all these jobs that they can't complete. They don't have the skills. And I get calls from people, so how would you do this? I said, well, first of all, if I didn't have the ability to do it, I wouldn't took the job, because now you're screwed. You took a job that you couldn't do, and now you're going to have to pay the price, right? In crypto, everybody takes jobs that they can't do. They take jobs that they are completely unqualified for. They are completely not ready to follow through. And they get so far and they go, oh my God, run, because they don't know how to finish what they start. And it's frustrating to me, especially coming from an industry where you have to finish what you start. You have to do what you say you're going to do. Hell or high water, developing, in a lot of cases, I build stuff that hasn't been done yet. So like, I had to develop kidneys that are X-rayable, ultrasoundable, and endoscopable. There were kidneys that are one of the three, but there's not one that did all of the three, right? So taking that job on, it didn't start out that way. It started out that it had to do this. Okay, fine, I can do that. Next thing you know, it has to also do this. It's like, okay, that material doesn't work for that particular filter, so I've got to refigure out how to do that. And it's like, oh, by the way, did we mention it's got to have an open core so it can be endoscopable? I'm like, oh, well, that's lovely. That would have been nice to know at the very beginning when we started this project, because now I have just developed something with a solid core, and now I have to go back and make it fit that filter too. And not only does it have to fit that filter, but it also has to meet the requirements in the other two fields, right? So that is my freaking job, where I have to problem solve and figure out how to take these elements and put them in such a way that they all work. And by the way, yes, I made a kidney that is ultrasoundable, endoscopable, and X-rayable all at the same time. But it took me 6 months to do it. It took trial and error. It took a box load full of material, different testing batches, and to go through this whole process to find what reacts what way and does what to come to these conclusions. And that's the kind of work that I do. Another thing I had to come up with was, I was doing a surgical trainer, and they were talking about the muscle tissue had to react a certain way. So I'm on the phone call, and basically at that point we had representational muscle tissue, which means that muscle tissue just had basically the density and the fill of muscle. And when you passed a needle through it, it felt like muscle tissue for the surgeons to feel. So on the phone call, the client was describing, no, actually, the muscles have to rip this way, they have to tear this way, and they have to tear this way. And that's critical to our project. And I'm like, whoa. Right now, what we have is representational muscle fiber. It does not tear in any direction. And then, of course, the client gets all upset. No. Well, the sales guy said that it had to be this way, and it wouldn't be no problem, and you guys could do it. I said, wait. I didn't say I couldn't do it. I just said it doesn't exist yet. Give me 2 weeks. Guess what? 3-layer muscle fiber packet. That's the shit I come up with. That's the stuff that I got to solve. So that's where
you are the mad scientist in the lab. Then I mean,
I'm a professional mad scientist. That's what I am. And that's what I do. So I find solutions to these problems. I create things that don't exist, and I recognize a good product when I see one. So
yeah. Well, Matt,
and I look at points of failure. This is the thing with me that people don't understand is I look at points of failure. I am not an optimist. I am not a moon boy. I look at the way things can fail. I look at their points of failure. I drilled holes in HEX when I first got into HEX. I was trying to find ways to sink the ship. That's my job, sink the ship. Figure out whether or not I'm wasting my time so that I can move on to the next thing. That's what I do. If it can't be done, then it can't be done. But I'm not, I want to waste as little time as humanly possible on trying to figure out whether or not these things work. Right?
100%. And I'm approaching this from the same, albeit a different angle, where I'm used to looking at companies and seeing if they're viable. You weigh up all the elements and you see, okay, is this a win or a not? I look at this, it's a win. And it's the same thing, right? Which is why I do feel the importance of converting a lot of those other people who are looking for the same fundamentals, who are doing the due diligence in similar ways. I understand and I see why institutionally it's not viable for some reasons, but as an individual, as an investment, yes. And again, such a great viewpoint from someone like yourself approaching it from that kind of algorithmic or that cook in the kitchen who's used to solving problems, who's used to taking a very analytical approach at life, from what you're doing, and you're also seeing a win. And this is that's a great thing about the community, right? That we have different walks of life, different expertise weighing in and different, weighing it up and looking at the unique selling points that appeal to them. And lo and behold, it makes sense, which is great. It gives me a huge amount of confidence too, to know that, and I've listened to you for a while anyway, but I had no idea, by the way, that you were that much of a mad scientist. I like what you had to say, but I think that's the first time that I've been clued into some of your
because I don't talk about me. I don't talk about me. And
you should. It's
funny
not that you're lacking gravitas in the space, but I think that would go a long way, right?
But the thing is, I don't talk about me. The thing that's hurt me through life is lack of self-promotion. I don't like it. I don't like the spotlight. I don't like self-promotion.
Yeah.
I'd rather make the suggestions and work in the research and development lab and let the company do the work. And that's been for me. I've never wanted the spotlight, and people to this day, they're mad because I've got the spotlight and they're like, oh, well, Johnny thinks he's so blah, 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 blah. I don't want to be here, man. I don't want to do this. You know what I want to do? I want to create. You know where I'm most valuable? When I'm creating, when I'm building. You know, when I'm stimulated, I am building shit.
So when are we seeing the token?
Do you understand how frustrating it is that my popularity comes from somebody else's invention? Which is just a digital asset on the blockchain, which is so simple and not complex at all, actually. Yet people are so simple and not complex that they can't seem to get it, how simple it is. They just can't grasp it because it's too complicated for their little brains to absorb, because they're used to things that are even simpler yet, which are basically tokens and a promise.
Have you thought about taking a stab at your own project within this space?
To be honest with you, I don't.
It would fit the mentality.
But no, because what I do is I build practical solutions in the physical world, right? I didn't understand Bitcoin back in the day because I didn't understand that it was I didn't really understand digital scarcity and digital things, because I am a person that is a fabricator and a builder of things that brings things into the real world. So I didn't get that. I thought it was dumb. You know, I mean, what is this digital thing, right? I rather build, build things that are physical in the real world, something that is tangible, something that you can touch. But no, I never. It's frustrating to me because I could have made plenty of tokens and made plenty of money, because it's not that difficult to do in the crypto space if you don't have morals. It's pretty easy to do, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, so I would say this too. I mean, just being a fan of your, what you have to say. I don't think there's too many people in the space that have a knack for unearthing unique thoughts, right? I think that you bring a lot of unique perspective to conversations in general, and I think that knowing that, I mean, sure, I'm sure there are 1,000,001 pain points that you've probably unearthed, that even maybe lots that you haven't mentioned. But it is surprising to me that someone with such an engineering, let's say, background, a creation kind of ethos about them, it hasn't and has the uncanny ability to unearth pain points that that you've brought to everyone's attention. Surely that is a recipe for bringing something that actually has some substance in a problem-solving skill,
but
coupled with the fact that you're a moral dude.
How many hammers do you need to drive a nail, Ben?
No, I mean, fair enough. Yeah,
we've got the best damn hammer in the crypto space right now, right in front of us. It's got all the bells and whistles. It does everything it freaking needs to do. I don't need to make a new one. And this is what frustrates me. Everybody wants to make something off of HEX or build on and do this. You know what? HEX is the perfect recipe. When you screw with the recipe, it's not as effective anymore. And, I don't need to build my own project because I already have ownership of the best project there is. If you own a Lambo, you don't decide that you're going to go build a Lambo. You already own one. So
fair enough.
That's kind of where I'm at with it. Richard is building the best products in the space. Whether or not they take adoption, I don't know. Because I know from marketing and development that you can build the best product in the world if it's improperly marketed, or there isn't a strong enough demand for it. It doesn't matter, right? So this is all based on whether or not people adopt and use things. It's not so much whether or not we have the best products, because that's certain. There's no question on whether or not we have the best products. It's just a matter of whether or not people are going to choose to use them. Sometimes people like doing things the hard way. Sometimes people don't like switching their brand. They just might not want to switch their brand because they're stubborn, right? Maybe you had a bad experience once or whatever. If you have a bad experience at a restaurant, right? So say you went on the Pulsechain and you couldn't get in there right now because there was no bridging and you had that bad experience, or you couldn't get over the bridge. So now guess what? Instead of writing a nasty letter, most people won't. What they'll do is they just not go back. They'll be like, yeah, I had a bad experience at that restaurant. I'm just not going to go back. So then they just go back to their normal places that they want to go. And that's how it is. So I think we have the best products.
Well, that's good. That says a lot too, right?
Yeah.
It says a lot too. I mean, if Johnny Chaos is not able to think of a better product than for most of us. It's
Let's put it all on me. Yeah, it's all my opinion, right?
Speaking of our kind of day-to-day jobs, I'm gonna have to jump. I got a meeting coming up in about half an hour. They're gonna prep for. But man, thank you. I love the conversations that we've had, and today was a great one too. We gotta get together at some point. I had the luxury of when a lot of the folks were in Miami for the premiere. I brought a few of them over to one of the lounges that I own in Miami, and I think it'll be great. I'd love to do more in that and kind of bring some of the folks.
One of the lounges he owns in Miami.
Well, yeah, I mean that's an area that I've outside of crypto that I've kind of invested in, but I do want to host, a lot of these kind of community events and maybe look to even get, some real kind of banging, streams going where we can do it in person. And so I'll keep you in the loop with that, because I think that, I mean, obviously it's not exactly something, because all of us are based here, there, and everywhere, that we're going to be able to do with any real regularity. But I'd love to put that on the table, and maybe then that's a good opportunity to kind of have someone like you sat in a chair next to, one of my folks at Goldman Sachs, or
it's hard to get me out of here. It's hard to get me out of here, Ben. One, I don't like to spend money, and two, I don't like to travel.
We'll get you virtually involved. We'll send you some drinks. Appreciate it, brother, and thank you everyone who's listening to this. Really appreciate it. I hope it was as informative for you as it was for me. I always learn a lot listening to Johnny, so it's been fantastic to again learn from the master, who's resentful celebrity within our space. He hates it, but it doesn't make a difference. Right. Well, awesome, man. Thank you very much, and I will. We'll be in touch again. I'm sure we'll do something again soon, hopefully.
Yep. Go ahead and end the stream. Talk to you real quick before we go.
Thanks,
Take care,
guys.
folks.
See you.